Hi, I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about this latest update of Pianoteq, which has got me going a bit. I like it. I don't know I don't know what it is. It's a very subtle change, so I'm not going to try and claim that I have any kind of insight into literally, materially what it is that's new because I don't really know. But it just goes from strength to strength. I feel like a kid in a sweet shop with Pianoteq. I've got all these pianos at my disposal, and I just love it. So I want to just say at this juncture, I don't have any affiliation with Pianoteq. I don't work for them. I'm not trying to be an influencer or a reviewer. That's not my role. I'm a teacher and I'm an artist. But I just kind of I'm excited to be, I don't know, like living at a time when something like this technology, this physical modelling that produces Pianoteq, and the genius people that are developing the Pianoteq, it's just extraordinary. I feel very excited by it, so I can't help but want to sort of talk about the tools of my trade. So that's all I'm doing. I'm not trying to sell it to anyone. I'm just literally talking about my own experience of using it. So yeah, this latest update, what does it have? Well, it seems to have, more than anything, it seems to have more presence. So like, presence is one of those very subjective terms, and I make no apology for that. That's what I'm feeling. What do I mean? I mean that it feels more there. It's like it feels more like the strings are vibrating there. So it feels less virtual, if you like. You could say it feels more realistic, but I try not to think about realism, because realism is rather a sort of objective idea, isn't it? Where we say, look at that, that's the real thing. Look at that, that's the virtual thing. How similar are they? So it's a sort of objective way of looking at it. I'm talking about something quite subjective, something that happens, it's sort of within me when I play. I get a feeling of presence. I get a feeling of there being something 3D and real and in the room with me. So this feeling of presence is really quite something. So I was really sort of trying to get that feeling of presence there as I'm playing, and I really feel the pianos there. That's the New York Steinway. It's the what do they call it? The Prelude preset. I like that one. I changed the reverb maybe very slightly to reflect and perhaps a little space I'm sitting in. But you'll hear it with the mics positioned in the audience place rather than at the front in the player perspective, because obviously that just seems like a sensible thing to do. But I want the mics in my position, as it were, so that it feels like the piano's there. Not like I'm sitting in the audience with very, very strange long arms. That would be very disorientating. I wouldn't like that feeling at all. I don't like that feeling when I try it. So I like the mics to reflect my position with the piano there, but then I'll move them so that you hear them from the perspective of the audience. So that's presence. Presence is kind of very important to me. The other thing that I'm feeling a lot more is fullness. And fullness is one of those strange things. When you play on a real piano, it just has this feeling of fullness, this feeling of scale, and a certain kind of strength. Fullness is the best word. And I think there's definitely more fullness. So yeah, fullness. This is very linked to presence. Presence is feeling the piano, but the piano is seemingly not just occupying the space in a way that's very present. It's also got this kind of thickness, fullness to the sound. The other thing is very linked is kind of warmth, a warmth of tone. We don't want things that sound a bit harsh and brittle. It's one of the things that I see people write about Pianoteq. It's never bothered me too much, but I do know what they mean, that in the past, in earlier versions, that sometimes there's a slightly kind of hardish sort of edge. So warmth, kind of warmth, something a bit grainy, a bit softer somehow. So even if I'm playing really, really loud and strong, it still feels warm. Even if I'm playing sort of something very sort of pingy and bright, it still feels warm. It doesn't feel like hard and cold. So warmth is yeah, it definitely feels like it's got more of that, which I'm very excited by. The other thing is power itself. So we've talked about space, presence, which I think is linked to space, and fullness, which is all linked to space. But there's this thing of actual power, a perception of power. Now, playing the piano is a very funny thing. It's a bit like singing. We don't, if you're belting a note, you don't sing it as loud as possible. You'll hurt yourself. And actually, it's the same on the piano. Even if I'm playing, I don't know, what's the loudest thing I can think of? Imagine it, the orchestra going mad, and I have to be heard over them, and I go. I'm not just playing as loud as I can, because I'll snap the strings on a real piano, as I have done. And you don't want that, because that means the piano sort of goes out of tune, needs to go into the workshop and be restrung, really, to have a sound in tune again, especially if you snap bass strings. It's a nightmare. So you don't just hit it as loud as you can. And you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to hurt your hands and your arms and your fingers by slapping the keys hard. And actually, in that piece like that, every time I play something, I'm playing it from the surface of the key. I never go bang through the keys like that. It's almost like it's the speed at which the velocity, obviously, at which you go down to the key bed, that little distance from the surface of the key to the key bed, the speed at which you travel through that distance, and then in a way how resilient, or I think what's a good word, sort of like responsive, how it's sort of like rubbery, springy bounce at the bottom. That's kind of how you get in touch with that feeling of strength. And in a funny sort of way, you can produce a feeling of strength even if you're playing quite softly. I could go. Where I'm sort of still feeling strength, but that was quite quiet. The velocity levels were not high. So it's not about actually playing loud. It's not about actual power. So what is it that produces that feeling of power? I don't really know. Again, as I say, these are subjective things that I'm talking about. But we've definitely got more of it here. And that's very exciting, especially for someone that likes playing big stuff like Rachmaninoff, like I do. I like doing the whole virtuoso thing. And it's very exciting when you get a lot of power coming out of an instrument. A very fine instrument, especially like Steinways, like concert grand Steinways, can produce this power. And yeah, this new update seems to produce more power for me. So it doesn't seem like a massive update, but it's having quite an effect on me. It's making me very excited to play it. I was excited to play it before, but even more so. Okay, so yeah, I guess perhaps the opposite ends of the scale from power would be delicacy. A feeling of delicacy, especially at the top end, this kind of. Delicacy and maybe a kind of sweetness, and in a way you do want something that sounds quite metallic. Certainly on a Steinway, it does have this certain kind of slightly bell-like, but to be able to get that in a way that's very, very delicate and sweet. I mean, warmth isn't probably what I'm trying to achieve there, but certainly sweetness, a sweetness of tone. You don't want it to become literally cold, but you do want something that's got this kind of, yeah, almost metallic bell-like delicacy. And yeah, yet again, I feel I can do. I feel I can get that out of the piano more than I could before this update. So this is all very exciting for me. More presence, more fullness, more warmth, more power, and more delicacy. And that's true across all the instruments where the update is applied. So all the you know the big grand pianos, the Blüthner and the Bechstein and so on. My favourite is still the Steinway, because that's just my personal favourite. You know, each to their own. But I love all the others too. I love the Bechstein, love the Blüthner, really fantastic. Love them all. They're all great, and they all have more of these qualities. So as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty exciting.